Welcome back to Budget with the July Dreamer. My name is Miranda, and on this channel I share everything personal finance. I cover budgeting, saving and investing. If these topics of interest to you, then please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into today's video. So where I'm filming is different because I am still traveling. I'm currently in Morocco with a friend of mine. She has just gone to do kite surfing, and because me and water are not friends, I'm staying here. But I thought I'd do this video because me and her, we were talking about our money mistakes in our lives so far, and it prompted this video, and I thought I'd share some of mine. I have a lot of money mistakes that I have made in my life, but you know what's so beautiful about it? I get to share them with other people in hopes that they do not make the same mistakes that I did, but also share them with you guys in hopes too that if you've made this, you can maybe relate or resonate. Also, maybe if you haven't, maybe you can avoid them altogether. I do have this pencil here that I've just gotten from the hotel. I'm in my hotel room now, and the notepad from the hotel as well, where I have just written down these money mistakes. So without further ado, let me get right into today's video. So the first money mistake that I have written down here is opting out of pension contributions. So in the UK, I want to say almost 5 years or so ago, when it came to pension contributions, you had to opt into the scheme. So some employers offered it, some didn't, but the UK was one of the countries with the lowest contributions for pensions. So the government changed up things and said instead of you opting in, you'll be auto opted in and you have to opt out. So I remember when that came into play or what have you, and I remember thinking, I'm so young. Like, this was, I want to say, in my mid-20s. I was like, I'm so young. Why do I need to think about a pension? Like, it was not a thing for me. Pension is for old people. That was the thinking that I had, literally. Like, I was like, pension is for old people. I do not need to be investing in a pension. I always thought investing was for, you know, rich people, and I'll talk about that in one of the other mistakes that I'm going to cover in this video. But I was just like, no thanks, I don't want to be investing in a pension. And also this rhetoric that you won't even be alive to enjoy that money, I had that too. I literally lived by that, like, well, I'm not even gonna be alive probably to actually even enjoy this money. Why should I be contributing in it? So I opted out. Every single time an employer that I worked for offered it, I was like, no thanks. I want my money now. This was a mistake, because now that I have read up more and I think my financial literacy has increased, I'm like, what a dummy. I was such a dummy then, and I am glad obviously now that my mind on that has changed. Even if I'm not here to enjoy that money, my family can, because I care about my family and I want them to have the best things ever. So with my pension, there will be somebody. If it's not me, there'll be somebody to enjoy it. But we are living longer, touch wood, in these days. Okay, so most of us, most of you watching, would definitely reach those retirement ages, and you don't want to reach those ages and not have anything, because let's not kid ourselves, our governments are finding ways to eat into our pensions, so much that there won't be social security, as it's called in the US, in the future for us, national insurance in the UK. There won't be none of that for, I don't think there'll be anything by the time I'm retiring, or at least by the time my nephew will be retiring. So instead of leaving myself at their mercy, I'm taking care of business now. So I'm investing for my future. To be honest, this took a lot of convincing. Took a lot of me reading up about it. And you know what's very interesting? I'll tell you a story in that when I was 18, I started working in a care home. Now, before I entered the care home, I worked in what's called care in the community. So we have the elderly living in their own home, and you provide care to them in their home. So you go to their house in the morning, help them shower, have breakfast, take their meds, make sure they're safe, healthy, all of that. Well, healthy when you're old, right? So it's kind of like just check on their welfare, but make sure, you know, they're eating, you give them a bath, blah, blah, blah. and then you go to the next one. And I did that the entire time I was in high school, college, going into uni. I did care work, and care in the community is where I realized that it's really not, it's so sad to see our elderly population struggling the way they were. I remember this one lady, she had two pensions. She had a private pension and she had a pension that her employer at the library where she worked gave. So she had those pensions and then national contributions, but she still could not afford the heating bill. And I know we can have this discussion about all energy companies and all of that, but honestly, it was surprising to me that she still had these pensions. She had no kids of her own. She had a sister who had a child, but obviously families, I don't want to speak to their family dynamic, okay? So she literally only heated up one room in her house, and that was her bedroom. Every single time I would go provide care, I would enter her house was colder than it was outside. Like, it was absolutely freezing. She would only come to the kitchen if she knew that I had switched on the oven, so it would it will warm up the living room. But none of the radiators in our home were ever on, only in the bedroom. And in the bedroom, they only came on twice, 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. That is it. She had an electric blanket as well, which she rarely turned on. But that, literally, she was just like, she would tell me, Miranda, I cannot afford to be alive. She was 85. I cannot afford to be alive. It's so expensive. By the time I pay my energy bills, there is no money left for food. By the time I pay for my care bills, there's no money left, because even the money she was getting from the government wasn't covering everything. It was covering some things, but something had to forgo. And for her, she was like, heating is what I'm going to forgo, which was crazy, but that's the reality for a lot of people. I have seen a lot more people in that situation, and you would think, seeing that then in my 20s, I would have been like, I don't want that to be me. But it was kind of like, as soon as I left, I forgot about it. Okay, even though these stories and the situation stayed with me, I kind of just forgot about it. I still opted out of my pensions. But now I am 36 to be 37 soon. I am definitely not doing that. My goal is to retire early. I would like to retire in my early 50s if I can. That's my goal. And I would really like to make sure my pension is all beefed up. I am ready for old age, God willing, and I'm able to support myself. The last thing I want is to be a burden to my family members, because 90% of the people, that's what they end up being, a burden to their children, because their children now have to think of surviving for themselves, their kids, but also their parents. And I don't want to be that. I want to make sure my kids, God willing, if I have any, they are living their own life and I'm doing the same. I've got the money to support myself and a little bit more to support them as well. So that was my financial mistake, that is opting out of my pension. Definitely think about it. I'm not a financial advisor, so again, I'm just telling you the money mistakes I made, the lessons that I've learned from them, and what I'm doing differently. So now I actually contribute into my pension and I max up to whatever my employer offers. My employer currently offers 8%. I max up to, I contribute 8% of my annual salary. That's my salary sacrifice. 8% of that, my employer matches that, and I do additional sacrifice because my employer offers that. So I do additional monthly sacrifice, but I also do every year, sometime in February or March, we get bonuses. I also sacrifice 10% of the bonus as well. So for me, I'm not playing when it comes to my pension contributions. So I'm contributing as much as I can. So that is what I'm doing different. The second money mistake that I made was not using credit cards responsibly. I will actually put a disclaimer in here and say I'm still learning. Honestly, I'm still learning because I'm still making mistakes with these credit cards. Even though I am on top of it, I still fall down the same tricks that I have learned before. I keep falling down the same traps myself, but I'm still learning. I'm not perfect. Far from it. Far from it. I am still learning. I'm picking up tips and tricks from other people, seeing how they're doing things, learning and seeing what I can implement in my own life. But My first credit card, I've talked about this in one of my videos. My first credit card was with a company called Vanquest, and I was 18 when they sent me a dummy card, literally like this hotel card, literally a dummy card that they sent me. This is what your credit card would look like. You get a limit of £500, and if you spend on it, say you spend all of £500, you only have to pay like £5 back. I wasn't even working at that time, but they still sent me, and I was like, yes, please. I applied, I got it. I did not have a job, but I still got a credit card. Okay, I still got a credit card. And because I'd heard horror stories about it, I didn't use it for the first, I want to say 6 months. When I did, I spent so much on it. And then in my mind, I was just like, oh, they said I won't have to pay £5. The statement would come, say minimum repayment is £5. What I did not read was the interest rate and how much interest I'll be charged every month on the balance that I owed on that card. Now I know all of these things, but I still make mistakes. This is what I'm saying. I'm not perfect, but I've definitely improved. And I still made a minimal repayments the entire time. I had that was my longest a debt that I carried for me in my 20s, because it was absolutely ridiculous. Like, I had it since I was 18, 19 when I got that card, and I carried that card on, I want to say, until maybe when I was like 25 or thereabouts. That's when I ended up paying the card off and completely closing it. I didn't stop there. I got another credit card, and I racked up more bills on that. And that took me years before I paid it back. Again, I did it. Again, I did it. Again, I did it. So credit cards are great for points. Like, I have an Amex card that I spend on for points. I have a Barclays card that I spend on because it's free to spend on that abroad. No fees, no what have you. But I try, not always, but 90% of the time, I pay off the full balance a month. But there are times, like with the situation I had happen last year in August, it meant I carried a balance. Okay, so I wasn't using my credit cards responsibly, but now I know the tricks and I'm trying to implement them and not be too crazy spending on my credit card. I have lived by this motto of, if I don't have it, I don't spend it. But I'm also, something you may not know about me, I'm also an impulse spender. There are times when my friends and I'm like, oh, let's go shopping. I'm like, I really don't want to go shopping, or I don't want to buy anything, but I also want to go just to see what's there. My friends can exercise control. I do not have that control. When I see something that I like, I will get it. That is my problem. So I try my very hardest not to actually take my credit cards with me. And honestly, on my mobile now with Apple Pay, I have removed the majority of my credit cards. I only now have the Amex and the cashback credit card with Halifax. With the Halifax credit card, I ended up even reducing my credit limit, because I had no business having that much as a credit limit. Okay, with my Amex, because I need the points, the credit limit I'm okay with that one. But I have been bitten many times with not using my credit cards responsibly. So many times. And those lessons keep me awake at night, and I try to make sure I don't repeat them. But again, I'm not perfect. There are times when I do, but most of the time I do not. So when it comes to credit cards, you need to be smart. You need to know when your statement date is. You need to know when your due date is. You need to know your interest rate on that credit card. Credit cards are the most expensive debts that we have. So if you can avoid credit cards, do. But if you're going to use them, learn how to use them responsibly, because your girl has been beaten many a time. Okay, so that was my second money mistake, which I'm still working on. The third one was payday loans. God give me strength. So if you don't know, I moved to the UK when I was about 16, and because we did not have a British residency or permanent stay, I was treated as an international student at uni, which meant we had to fork out our own money for me to go to uni, which my parents did not have. Okay, so I had to pay part of it and my parents had to pay part of it. So I worked 2 to 3 jobs at uni just to pay for my tuition. We managed in the end. But the part that I couldn't manage was I ended up taking out a payday loan. The way it was advertised, and I can't blame them. They really did go for some of us who were not well financially educated, so we fell for the traps that they set, which if I look at them now, they were pretty obvious, but then I needed the money. So even if they were obvious, I probably didn't pay attention to them because I needed the money. So I ended through this cycle where I borrowed, I think the first time I borrowed was like £300. My pay at work was about £500 at that time because I was part-time, I was a student. And so I remember I got paid, I paid them all of it back, and they immediately sent me a text to be like, if you want to borrow some more, since you've proved to us that you can pay back the money, we can, we've upped your limit that you can borrow from us. And I was like, oh, okay. I fell into the trap. Do you know what was the most ridiculous thing about this payday loan? The interest was 145%. I kid you not. I saw those big numbers. Credit cards may have 25%, 30%, and we think they're bad. Payday loans are the worst. Personally, I think they're the worst. But I still fell into the trap, and I went through that cycle of I get paid, I pay them back, I borrow more. I get paid, I literally went through that cycle, and I think I did that cycle for 4 years. So I'm honestly telling you from my experience, if you can avoid it, I would rather even go on credit card than do payday loans again. Never again. Payday loans for me, it's a no. It is a complete no. Do not do it. If you can avoid it, please avoid them. If you have no choice and you have to use it, don't repeat. Just use it once, pay it back, and that's it. That's all I'm saying. So if you can hear noise, because I think the next door have checked in and they're on their balcony and they're talking quite loud, which is quite annoying, but this is not my space, okay? So that's payday loans. That's my third one. My fourth one was unsecured personal loans, which were just like payday loans. This one, I was in a desperate situation. And it always happens that when you are desperate and super in need, that is when these companies are ready, willing, and waiting for you to want to borrow money. I borrowed this loan of, I want to say 3,500 is how much I borrowed, but the interest rate said I had to pay back 7,500. And I still went ahead with it. Like I said, I'm better now with making financial decisions, but then I wasn't. All I knew was that in that moment, I'm going to get 3,500 to do the things that I needed to do. It was ridiculous, the fact that I had to pay them £4,000 more for borrowing 2,500. Let that sink in. I borrowed 3,500. My total repayment back to them was 7,500. So I had to pay them back £4,000 in interest. I get letters now from companies that are like, oh, they missold you this loan, do you want to get money back? Some of them, these companies ended up going under, so we can't really get anything back. But I fell victim to this because I needed it. And yes, it was my fault for going to them. But they are companies that, no, you will go to them. You know, it's like they're almost legal loan sharks, if I can say that. So never again. Never, ever again. So yeah, loans. Then also another money mistake that I made. So this will be my fifth one because unsecured personal loans was my fourth one. My fifth one will be invest in limiting beliefs. So for many years, I believed that for me to actually invest, I needed to earn a lot of money. When I say a lot, I'm talking about 100K plus. That's what I thought. Obviously now getting familiar with and seeing platforms like free trade where you can invest £1 and all of that, I realized that obviously that was a limiting belief because somebody said it to me. I believed it and I had carried it for years. There's so many money limiting beliefs that my culture perpetuates that we really need to break barriers on, speak about money. It doesn't help that money is a taboo topic in our mind, in my culture, in a lot of cultures. It does not help because then we continue perpetuating wrong information. The next generation takes it up and continues with it. I run with the fact that I did earn enough money to invest. This is also one of the reasons why I want to say I opted out of pensions. Because I was like, I don't have money for pensions. I'm too young for pensions. But investing, I was just like, I don't have money. Is investing for the rich? That's what I used to say. all the time that investing is for rich, which is absolutely ridiculous. These days you can invest £1, $1. It doesn't matter how much you earn. Literally doesn't matter how much you earn. If you have a pound to spare, a dollar to spare, there are apps out there that you can use to help you invest. Look into them, educate yourself, because this limiting belief goes generation after generation, and it's up to you, up to me, to break those generational curses. I hope I'm doing that, because I'm definitely educating my future kids, my niece and my nephew. Definitely, you don't have to be wealthy to invest. I don't even know why I carried this belief for so long. But then again, I must say, the environment I surrounded myself in was an environment that never talked about money. That money was a taboo. Okay, every single time I heard people talking about money, was like, oh, you think money grows on trees? That was all I was hearing. So definitely a money investing limiting belief that I had, and I'm glad I don't have that anymore. The final one that I have here is purchasing liabilities. Your girl was a superstar at purchasing liabilities. I can't even tell you how many liabilities I have purchased in the name of assets. Well, actually, I couldn't even tell you then what an asset was, outside of like the definition of just the word asset. I couldn't tell you what it meant. Liabilities, I could tell you in the general terms what a liability is, but I couldn't tell it to you financially speaking. But I literally was the queen of buying everything and anything that was a liability, instead of investing in my future, instead of buying assets that will increase my net worth, that will protect me in the future and stuff like that. But just like with everything in life, it starts with the environment you surround yourself with, where people believe buying certain things, oh, I'll buy a new car, or I'll buy these Louboutins, or I'll buy this designer bag. Some things you have to know what is a true asset and what is just a liability in an asset sheepskin. That's it. Like for me, I was good at getting all of the liabilities. There are times when I look back and I'm just like, where did my money go? And I can't even tell you. There's certain things that I purchased that within a day or two I was bored and didn't want to use anymore. Wasted my money. I did an exercise one time. I don't know what book I read that encouraged you to look at your lifetime earnings from the time when you started making money to your current age. And I have had 1.5 million plus come into my life, at least until the last time that I did it. I know it's more than that now, but I was just like, I have earned that much and I can't tell you where that money is or where it went. I definitely traveled it, ate it, or threw it away on stuff that I did not need, aka liabilities.